I appreciate it. And thank you all for attending. I certainly do realize that some of you are on this webinar because you want to learn a little bit, and others are on it because your boss made you. But either way, I thank you for attending. And so this is what I call the three-prong approach to prospecting and for LBM salespeople. And you can tell already that I am not from the South, and you would be right. So I am from the greater Boston area. And to make life a little bit easier for you to understand my accent, I put this slide up here. So on the left is how I say things. And of course, on the right is the English translation. So if you do have any problems with the way I talk, or you don't understand me, what have you, let me know and I'll try to explain it. So just a little background on me. I got 40 plus years in the business. Started off on the counter like a lot of people, worked my way to outside sales, and eventually worked my way up to senior management. So prior to me going out on my own a little over 4 years ago, I was a senior vice president of the largest independent dealer in the Northeast in New England. We had 14 locations covering 4 states, couple of trust plants, 52 outside salesmen, and so on. I am a columnist for various trade associations around the country, and I've been a featured guest on webinars with Bradley Hartman, Rick Davis, so on and so forth. So I throw this up there not to pat myself on the back, but for you to understand that I've done what you've done. I started off on the counter. I've driven a forklift and what have you. I worked my way into outside sales and then into sales management. So this is not, like I say, to pat myself on the back. It's more so you understand that I truly understand what goes on at the LBM level, regardless of whether you're in Florida or Massachusetts or anywhere else. The basics are the same. So I don't know if anybody of you are a fan of The Office. This character's name is Stanley, and it says, "Sales is not hard. Here's what I do. I make my pitch, then I stare. You want me to stop? Buy something." I throw this in there because wouldn't it be nice if sales was this easy? But it's certainly not. So let's dig into this a little bit. So in business, there's two ways of growth, and or two definitions, I should say. One is horizontal growth, and it's quite simple that if you looked at your customer list in a spreadsheet, and obviously list all your customers just like you would read a book from left to right. And so, of course, if you add customers, you're adding to it, you're growing it horizontally. And we're not going to spend any time on it, but you may hear in business horizontal growth and then vertical growth, which is what we're going to cover next. So horizontal growth is quite simply adding to your existing customer base. So the cartoon I find interesting. It says, our study concludes that this is the percentage of our customers who will buy from us without any effort whatsoever on our part. And of course, it's 0%. This is even more true, if that's possible, in our industry. Our industry is very strong relationships. The products can be purchased, the same products can be purchased at 6 other lumberyards within a 20-mile radius. So it's relationship building. But let's talk about vertical growth, which is also known as wallet share. So basically, what it's saying is getting more from your existing customers. So identifying opportunities with existing customers to sell more product groups, therefore increasing your sales and gross margin. So when you look at your customers, it's great to know, and you as a salespeople, you know, what are they buying from you? What's more important is what are they not buying from you? That you do well. I mean, obviously, like for instance, in our company, we sold a lot of different products, but we were not that good at vinyl siding. James Hardy, wood siding up in New England is big for the colonial look and what have you. We did those products extremely well. Vinyl, not so much. So I wouldn't expect if a customer was buying vinyl siding that they would buy it from us. But anything that we did well, I would want our customers to be buying it from us, and I would want to know why if they weren't. So here's just a basic sheet here that shows kind of what we set up years ago. So if you look at this chart, the blue is a specific customer. The orange is all of our outside salesmen combined. So not necessarily all the company sales, because I didn't want to take into consideration the DIY. I wanted to compare this contractor to the outside salesman who also dealt with contractors in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New Hampshire. So we're not going to go through all these product lines, but on the far left, you have EWP, Engineered Wood Products. And you can see in the orange, it runs somewhere around 9.7, I think that is, percent of all the sales from the 52 outside salesmen. 9.7% of those sales came from the EWP product category. The blue is that particular customer. This is a real customer of ours. And he's buying 10% of his purchases. So I already know, just looking at this, that he's buying all his EWP from us. But let's take a look at roofing and siding. So the roofing, the outside salesman averaged around 3.8% of their total sales to come in the roofing category. Well, this guy bought what looks to be about 1%. So that tells me he either bought some of the peripheral products or maybe just one small job. In siding, he didn't buy anything from us. So I would, when the reason I bring this up is I'd sit with the salesman and say, okay, why isn't this customer buying roofing? And they may say something like they buy it from XYZ. They've been buying from them for as long as they've been buying from us. So we're not going to break that. On the siding, they probably would tell me in a case like this, they're buying vinyl siding. And so, but by identifying what is it your customers are not buying, let's say interior millwork, let's say they're not buying interior doors and trim and stair parts and what have you, why not? And once you identify what they're not buying from you, is go after that business, meaning contact the customer and say, look, I'd like to talk to you about the interior. We call it interior millwork, but the interior doors, trim, so on. And what I found over my career is because those customers have a relationship with you and your company, they are buying from you, just not that category in this example. They're more likely to at least accept a meeting with you. Doesn't mean they're going to buy from you, but the chance of them, saying no or slamming the door in your face, hypothetically, that's probably not going to happen because they like you, they like your company. So they may say, you know what, I'm happy with where I'm buying the interior. But yeah, you know what, you want to have a meeting? I'm willing to have a meeting and listen to what you guys have to say. But first, you got to identify what those opportunities are. So let's talk about why must you prospect? Because it's natural in any business, ours included, for existing customers to move away, retire, pass away, or God forbid, even change suppliers. So also, I've had salesmen tell me I am too busy to prospect. And even though you constantly need to prospect to keep that, if you have X amount of customers, you're going to lose a certain amount of them on a regular basis just through some of those things I discussed in the first paragraph. So you want to keep that pipeline open. But one of the things I said to this salesman that we were having lunch and he just said, and he was doing a lot of volume. So I understood where he was coming from. But I said to him, I said, look, let me ask you a question. You have 38 customers. Are they all busy at the same time? And of course, the answer came back, no. Okay, then that means that, in my opinion, you have some capacity. Now, you may not have 5 hours a week, but I'm willing to bet you can carve out 1 hour a week for prospecting. And he looked at me, he goes, yeah, I'm sure I could carve out 1 hour a week. I said, there you go. I said, even that is better, even if you went after one customer a week, one prospect, excuse me, that's fine. It's certainly better than zero. And when you are prospecting, we're going to get into it in detail. I'm going to give you hopefully some advice on how you can maybe penetrate. But keep in mind that the needs of your prospect are the same as your current customers. Don't think the prospect's problems are unique because they're not. If you've solved them for your existing customers, then you're prepared to take care of your prospects. Now, obviously, you got to get them to try you to understand or for them to realize that you are taking care of your customers extremely well. So here's a saying by Mark Twain that I really like. Courage is resistance to fear and mastering fear. It's not absence of fear. And you may say, what the heck's that got to do with prospecting? Well, what I've learned is prospecting does not come natural or easy to many people. One has to continually work on it to become proficient. Now, we had 52 outside salesmen in my company. And obviously, with that many outside salesmen, we ran the gamut of all different personality types. And we had a handful who absolutely loved prospecting or hunting, as they're called. And they loved it. They were good at it. Then there was some that were just, in the middle. And then there was the bottom, not bottom, but then there was the rest of them who it scared them. They had a knot in their stomach if they had to kind of cold call someone. And I get it. It's, rejection is not something that anybody enjoys. But it's certainly, if you're in sales, you will experience rejection. No one is perfect. So keep in mind that, prospecting, it takes time. Relationships must be earned. Trust must be earned. Yes, we're selling products, okay, but price itself is not going to do it. It's part of the equation, but it's a relationship that you need to build to keep these customers coming back time and time again. So let's talk a little bit about ways to find potential new customers. So I find the low-hanging fruit, if you would, or the easiest, is ask your existing customers for contractors they know who are not buying from your company. Think about it. They're home builders or they're remodelers or what have you. They have other home builders or other remodelers in their circle of friends. There's no doubt about it. And so don't be shy of asking your existing customers do they know anybody that's not buying from your company? Now, the next thing, and if they say, yeah, I got a friend and he buys some whatever, he's been there a while and what have you, that's great. Say, hey, Mr. Customer, can I drop your name? Can I use your name when I reach out to so-and-so? What I have found is that, and I don't have this as scientific figures, but I'd say over 80% of the time, your existing customer can say, yeah, you can drop my name. You can tell him you spoke to me and I'm the one that gave you his, name and contact info. That's great. The next thing I would ask is, would you mind reaching out to him on my behalf? And then I'll follow up. Now that I found that maybe 1 out of 4 would say yes. The other 3 would say, look, I'm not going to get involved. I gave you his contact information. Yes, you can use my name, but no, I'm not. I don't have time to, reach out to him on your behalf. And that's fine. But the 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 5, whatever that say yes, that is huge. If you can get your existing customer to reach out to a prospect on your behalf. But even if they won't, like I said, but they give you permission to use their name, That also goes a long way, because think about it. When you reach out to that prospect and you say, hey, my name is so and dot. Mike McDole suggested I give you a call. I've been working with Mike for years, and I'd like to set up a little meeting that we can talk about how we do business, what we can do for your company. And I'm going to get into that in a minute of other ways of getting somebody's attention. Oop, I guess I should have hit the enter button. I apologize. So the other thing is, ask subcontractors. Think about it. Framers, siders, roofers, plumbers, electricians, painters, all that. They're subcontractors. They work for contractors all over the area. So for you outside salesmen, when you're on a job site, if you just walk by the subs that you feel, quote unquote, can't help you, don't do it. Stop it. If that's you, stop doing it. So I'll give you a little true story. So I'm out with a salesman in Connecticut, spent a day with him, and we went to this house where we had a meeting with the contractor, and he's in the backyard on the phone. So we walk through the house, and the salesman walks by an electrician putting in the finish electrical and a painter. Didn't say a word. I walk by, of course, I just say hi, how you doing, whatever. Just and afterwards we got into his truck, and his name happened to be Mike. I said, Mike, why would you just walk by the painter and the electrician? And this is a veteran salesman. He goes, well, we don't sell that stuff. And I'm like, I know. I said, number one, it's rude. I said, but number two, if you develop even a little bit of a rapport, you don't have to become best friends with these people, but a little bit of a rapport, you could ask them who else they're working for. Who else, where are they going next? Or maybe if their crew is big enough, maybe they're working for 3, 4 contractors at once with different crews and what have you. If they, look at you as saying, you don't even recognize it, you don't even, say anything to us or what have you, they're not going to give you the time of day. But if you stop and say, hey, how you doing? I've seen you, this is like the third time I've seen you in the last couple of months and what have you. My name's so-and-so. I work with, XYZ Lumber, dot, 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 dot. Just some general niceties, whatever. Maybe you talk about the weather, whatever it might be. Once you start developing even a small rapport, that's when you can ask those subs, who else do they work for? And the other thing about developing a little rapport with these subs is get their contact information, put it in your phone. Now, I get that you don't sell electrical or whatever, and you may say, well, why do I need that? Well, you may not, but somewhere down the road, you may have your contractor contact you and say, hey, do you know an electrician? I'm doing an addition. My electrician is had a heart attack or whatever it might be, and he's laid up for 2 months. Do you know of anybody? You go into your phone, type in electric, up comes so and so. So you tell that contractor, look, I'm not recommending him because I couldn't tell you whether he's good, bad, or indifferent. I can tell you that he works for a couple of other contractors, so he must be decent. Here's his information. You may say, okay, what good is that? What good that is that customer of yours is now using you as a resource. You just helped him out of a bind. So other ways of finding new customers is I'm pretty sure most lumber yards belong to the Home Builders Association, their local Home Builders Association. And if your company is, I suggest that you attend some of the events, because one thing I've learned in my career is contractors, subcontractors, remodelers, home builders, they want to do business with companies who support their association. So if you went to these events, whatever they are in your area, they're networking opportunities. And members like doing business with people who support their association, as I said. As a member of or a sponsor of an HBA, your company can get access to the member list, the list of all the members. And usually they're broken down, by whether they're HVAC or they're, remodelers, additions, what have you. You can get that list. But get involved. And what I strongly suggest is if you do go, whether it to be a golf tournament or whatever, we have up in our neck of the woods, we have a lot of clam bakes and clam boils, things like that. Um, whatever if you get involved with one of or more of the events, just network. It is not a time for hard selling. What you want to do is have a beer or have a drink, whatever, with a contractor, get to know them a little bit, shoot the breeze, to find out, maybe you could say, hey, would you mind tomorrow or the next day I give you a call, we could set up an appointment. That's fine. But it is not the time to do hard selling. Those contractors are not there to get ambushed by salespeople. So other ways of finding new customers. When I was on the road in the 90s, there was no internet and so on. So it was a lot harder to find. But in today's world, it's easy. You can Google them. You can get reviews, news, etc. Dig into their website. Every contractor that I know of uh, has an about us. And so, and by the way, a lot of what I'm talking about is not the national builders, the Lennars, the Pulte, the Toll Brothers. They're different. I'm talking the regional builders. Even if they're large regional builder, they're going to have an about us. You read that, get the background. Maybe they're second generation, third generation. Maybe their son's starting to take over. Whatever it might be. Take a look at where they build and what they build. What are they known for? And the reason you want to do as much research as you can before you reach out to them is so when you do reach out to them, that prospect realizes you've done your homework. You're not out there just peddling products, but you've done your homework. And you want to be able to figure out a way to keep that person engaged in the conversation, whether it's face to face or whether it's phone calls. And the more you know about them, the better chance of keeping that conversation going. And if possible, visit one or more of their projects. Walk the job site. Is there anything that makes them unique or stand out? Do they have a style of home or whatever it might be that is different? And if so, you want to bring that up. So I'll give you an example. We had a salesman that told me that, he chased this customer or researched, excuse me, this customer, potential customer, and he went to one of their jobs and they had in the great room a huge barrel roof, wood with wood ceiling and so on, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And so that's what he used to keep that conversation going, because the prospect on the other end of the phone realized that this guy actually went to the job site because he described it in detail. Now, I have some pictures of home pages or pages of different contractors, and the one in the lower middle is in Connecticut. 5 out of the previous 8 years or 7 years, I forget which, that contractor won Home Builder of the Year for the state of Connecticut. Well, let me tell you, if I was prospecting that guy, that's exactly what I would lead with, because that is super impressive to be named Home Builder of the Year 5 out of the past 7 or 8 years. So you want to learn what you can about the prospect, but you also want to be able to extract some information that will pique that customer's curiosity and keep that conversation going, as opposed to them just slamming the phone saying, leave me alone. And hopefully they never do that, but you kind of get that message sometimes. Other ways is if you're not on social media, I suggest you do. Now, I'm on it for work. I'm not on it for personal. And I'm talking obviously for work here. So LinkedIn. what I found is most contractors, again, they can be remodelers, they can, be a handyman, they can be deck builder, whatever it might be, are on LinkedIn and Instagram. And I guess Facebook too. I'm not on Facebook, but I guess I should be. But what I used to do when I was at National Lumber in New England is on Sundays in the winter, which pretty tough up here, I'd be watching football. And I would go on LinkedIn and I would type in the search bar home builders in Rhode Island, home builders on Cape Cod, home builders in Hartford, Connecticut, whatever it might be. And up they would come. I would then follow them. Now, what I was hoping for, of course, is they follow me back. So, because I reposted what our company put out there, and every once in a while I would post things. Um, so what I found was if I followed somebody, they more often than not followed me back, which is what I was looking for. Same thing with Instagram. And I'm not saying that by them following you back, that you're going to get business. I'm not saying that. What you do get is recognition, they recognize your name, they recognize your company's name. Once you start following those contractors, like what they post, assuming that you do. Okay, if you don't like what they post, then don't do anything. But most contractors post pretty pictures of their jobs. They're proud of their work as they should be. And if you like what they post, what do most people who post on social media do? They look up how many likes did they get and who liked them. And we're not talking Taylor Swift with 4 million likes. We're talking that, if you get 15 likes, that's a lot for most people, especially, business owners. So, but they're going to look at how many likes and they're going to look at who liked them. I remember this one time I'm out on a job site with a potential job customer was at a job site with a salesman. And the guy I introduced myself. He goes, "Oh, you're the guy that likes everything I post." Again, did that get me business? No. Did that get a 30-minute conversation on the job site sitting on a bunch of two bys? Yes, it did. And eventually we did get that customer. So I suggest if you're not on social media, even if you're not on it for personal, and if you are on it for personal, you can separate your personal and business profiles. The other way in today's world, which was just not available even a few years ago, is using artificial intelligence. So whether that be ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude, what have you. So here's something I just typed in. This is I should have typed in something for Florida, but I was in North Carolina with a contract with a client, and so I typed into ChatGPT. Show me home builders within a 25-mile radius of Charlotte, North Carolina. And up they come. And by the way, that list goes much deeper. Now, in a previous slide, I talked about using Google, which is fine. But the problem is where this takes an advantage over Google is it lists it all, as you can see, and you could click on those names and what have you, and it will give you more information. Send you to their website. It will also dig into more information. So, for instance, if I click on that top one, Peter's Custom Homes, I use ChatGPT. The next screen is going to say they usually build in this county. They're known for dot 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 whatever. So it's giving you some information. Then, of course, you could dig into their website. So I thought this would save you a lot of time. If you Google it, it comes up one at a time, as you know. Same thing. I typed in, okay, show me remodelers within a 25-mile radius of Charlotte, North Carolina. And up they come. And you can see they break it down by remodeling specialists. Are they full service home remodeling? Do they specialize in kitchen remodeling or general renovation, additions, things like that? So when you type something in, whether it's whatever your radius is of your general selling area, yes, hopefully a number of these customers are already customers of your company. But I'll tell you what, you're going to find some that are not. And the idea is identify them first and then dig in as much information as you can get before you reach out to them. So, other ways of finding new business. Don't overlook what we call them house accounts. So, they were not assigned to outside salesmen because they didn't do large volume. But the maybe they didn't do a large volume because we didn't cater to them. We didn't show them any love. They were house accounts. They called the store, got the counter, they came in, what have you. By doing a little research, you could determine, are you getting the lion's, when I say you, your company, is your company getting the lion's share of their purchases? If the answer is yes, fine, keep them as a house account. Your company's obviously taking good care of them. If the answer is, you know what, the guy's doing 75,000 a year with us, but looking at what he does, when I look at their website, when I do dig into AI about them, I'm guessing they do 3 to 4 times that in general purchasing. Well, then reach out to them, show them a little love, let them know that you're their contact and what have you, and maybe that 75 grand can go to 300. And they already have a relationship with your company. So you're not coming in completely cold, even though they may not know you personally, they certainly know your company. They're doing business with you. The other thing too is if you're in an area that does a decent amount of remodeling business, this may sound funny, but go to a big box store between 6:30 and 8 in the morning, and you'll see a ton of pickup trucks, vans, etc., with their respective company names and info plastered on it. Just drive through one day and you'll see dozens of them. It's a true story. So we had a counter salesman that kept pushing to get on the road. I wasn't sure he was quite ready, but I acquiesced and said, you know what? I love your persistence. Let's give you a shot. So I don't know, a month or two later, he calls me, 7:45, something like that in the morning. And he goes, Mike, Evan. I said, yeah, Evan, what's up? He said, guess where I am? I said, I have no clue. I'm in a Home Depot parking lot in North Kingstown, Rhode Island. I said, what are you doing there? And I'm thinking, we allowed our salesmen that if we, miss something, a box of nails, caulking, whatever, I'd rather have them go to the local store, buy it, take care of the customer, and then we'd reimburse them as opposed to driving wherever our location was. So that's what I assumed he was doing. But he goes, no, I'm standing outside the contractor entrance and I'm talking to these guys coming out and giving them my business card. And I laughed. I said, that's ballsy. And I said, you're telling me the Home Depot management did kick you the heck out of there? And he goes, nope. So I gave him kudos for having that kind of gumption, but I'm not recommending that. But I just thought you'd get a kick out of that true story. But driving through one of those big box locations and just, writing down names, numbers, and websites off the side of a van or a pickup truck, there's nothing wrong with that at all. So cold calling. Again, I know that most people are uncomfortable doing it because they think they're going to get, either yelled at or slammed, the phone slammed on them, whatever. I get it. And, you're probably a little uneasy. You may not eliminate all doubt, but make the call anyway. So research the prospect ahead of time. That's what I just spent the last several slides talking about. Draft a cold intro, but not memorize a script. So you want to draft it, you want to practice it so that you get whatever points you want to get out in that opening statement, you get out. But do not read a script. Most of us can tell right away when somebody on the other end of the phone is reading something. So you can you put it in your own words, put it in your own style. But if there's 3, 4, 5 points that you definitely want to get out, just make sure you get those out. And have a plan if they answer and don't answer, which is Very similar, by the way. They can be very similar. And start with a greeting followed by why you're calling. And remember, focus on how you can help their business. Of course, you're calling to sell product. Obviously, we all know that. But if that's all you're going to tell the customer, that's not, or the prospect, that's not going to impress them. So don't ramble. Keep your message, whether the guy picks up or it's a voicemail, to under 30 seconds. And you can say an awful lot in 30 seconds. But I think I'm like most people. If I get a voicemail, I look down, it's a minute and 41 seconds. My head just drops. And try to pique their curiosity. Okay, now I'm going to get into a specific in a minute, but if you say, hey, we can help you. We can help you with productivity. We can help you be more efficient, which therefore means more money for you. That's piquing their curiosity. But the next question that customer is going to ask is, oh yeah, how? So if you're going to throw something like that out there, which I'm a fan of, you need to be able to back that up. So cold calling is a long shot, but necessary. So let me give you an example of what I would call warm calling. So warm calling is when, in one of the earlier slides, I said, ask your customers to be able to use their name, or better yet, will they make a phone call on your, or text or whatever, on your behalf? That's warm calling. And there is a difference between warm calling and cold calling. So warm calling is, so and so suggested I reach out to you. If you think about it, if you're doing something around your house, or you're buying something and what have you, and somebody you trust gives you the name of a place to check out, you're going to check that place out. It doesn't mean you're going to buy from them, but you will definitely check it out if a buddy of yours says, you got to check this out. So here's an example of a warm call, if you would, message. So, hello, Mr. Costanza. This is Art Vandelay from Cremerica Lumber. I was talking to Elaine Bennis the other day, and she suggested I reach out to you. I stopped by your ongoing project, and without blowing smoke, I have to say I am truly impressed with the design and workmanship. I'm calling because I saw some things that I'm confident we can help increase your efficiency and productivity, which will positively impact your profitability. I know I'm interrupting you now, but can we set up a brief meeting so I can explain further? I assure you, I won't take much of your time. That's about 20 seconds right there. And by the way, these references of Costanza, Art Vandelay, and so on, you have to be a certain age to know the reference. That's a Seinfeld reference. So you're saying, okay, I got some stuff that I think can help your efficiency and productivity, which will positively impact your profitability. Every business person wants to be more profitable. So you're piquing their curiosity at that point. And as I said earlier, he or she's gonna call you out on that. You better have an answer. So you say that to the customer, and they're probably going to say something like, no, thanks, I'm happy with my current supplier. I've heard that hundreds of times in my career. And that's the polite way of saying, get off the phone. However, I'd come back with, I understand, Mr. Costanza. We work hard to make sure our customers are happy with us also. However, and this is where you emphasize, are you 100% happy with them? Is there anything at all that you would like to see improved or changed with them? So salesmen of ours use that almost verbatim. And the customer says, the prospect says, you know what? The company, whatever, XYZ Lumber, what have you, they're good. Overall, they're good. But I got to say that, lately, the last several months, the interior doors are coming in damaged, a lot of them. And I don't understand it. I've talked to him about it and so on. He goes, so would I like to see them do that better? Absolutely. Well, his response anyway was, okay, well, let me explain how we do it. We have box trucks with the pogo sticks. We make sure that we put sheets of cardboard in between every interior door, and then make sure the pogo sticks are tight. Because in the Northeast, with potholes and things like that, as that truck goes down the road, there's a lot of bumps, a lot of movement, and that's where the doors were rubbing up against the other doors with our competitor. And he goes, that's why we put the cardboard in between them, so we don't have damage. Well, guess what? The guy says, you know what? Let's meet and let's talk about interior doors and trim. So now, am I going to say something that opportunity comes every single time? No. But if they say, I'd like to see my existing company do whatever better, you can come back with, how does your company handle that? Another possible response from the that you to the customer when he says, no, thanks, I'm happy. I understand, Mr. Costanza. I'm not asking nor expecting to get the bulk of your business, but rather we could be your insurance policy if XYZ slips up. And I used this line back in the 90s. And of course, I've had customers say, what do you mean insurance policy? Say, look, open an account with us. I understand XYZ is your main supplier. I get that. I'll take the table scraps. I'll take the small stuff. And if you have an account with us, and for whatever reason XYZ slips up, maybe that driver called in sick and they can't get your load out for 6 hours, give me a call. I can't guarantee I can do it, but I guarantee I'll do everything in my humanly possible to get it done for you to keep your job going. That's what I mean by an insurance policy. And then the last line is, or perhaps we can supply products that you're not buying from XYZ. Like I know you're not buying windows from them. Can we talk about that? So this is, what you're trying to do is get your foot in the door. The toughest thing I found with going after prospects is getting them to fill out the credit app. Once that happens and you show up on the job regularly, even if you're getting the bits and pieces, that's fine. If you are as good as you think you are and your company's as good as they think they are, you should be able to grow that business and take more and more away from your competition. So let's talk about being authentic, which is part of communicating with your customers. And you don't want to come across as the used car salesman and things like that. And what's it going to take for me to put you in this car? No, you want that customer to know that you genuinely care. Yes, he's not stupid. He knows you want the sale. Of course you do. But what you want to prove to him is you want the long-term relationship. So being genuine in your communication, honesty is key. Do not exaggerate any benefits or overpromise things. Don't be a BSer. People pick up on that pretty quickly. Active listening. Pay attention to what the customer is actually saying. And good listening shows you care. If you are the type of person that is thinking of what you're going to say next instead of listening to them, I can tell you what, the person on the other end or the person in front of you, they pick up on that pretty quickly. Listen more than you speak. Try to truly listen to what their needs or concerns are. Even if they're happy where they are, they may leave a little tidbit that tells you that maybe that's the opening you can go through. Okay. Maybe I remember this one time customer says, look, I've been with so-and-so for however many years and so on. And he goes, I really like them. He goes, would I like to make them to improve on their making sure that I get billed what they quoted? Yes, but overall they're good. That's exactly what the guy said. So of course, my salesman uses that and says, well, let me tell you how we do it. Our owner gets pissed off if we do not charge what we quoted, because now we have to write a credit. We tick you off. We have to write a credit and a rebill. So we want to get it right the first time. And avoid scripted pitches, like I said. So being authentic in sales is about building trust and genuine connections. Okay. Be confident, but humble. Confidence is good. I love confident people. But there is a difference between confidence and cockiness. I have a friend that has lumber yards up in the Detroit area, and he says that outside salesmen are the wide receivers of the lumber business. And he's right. So if you look at football teams, who's the cockiest on usually who's the cockiest on the team? It's not the quarterback, it's wide receivers. Build relationships, not transactions. In our industry, we are looking for that repeat customer. We are looking to have that customer for decades. Heck, some customers have multi-generational relationships with lumber yards. So you're not just closing a one-time deal. Show empathy. Understand the challenges your clients face and show that you genuinely care about solving them. And probably one of the most important is follow through on what you say you're going to do or promises. Deliver on what you say you'll do. If you say you're going to get back to them, get back to them. If you say you're going to look into something, get back to them, and so on. And what I found is most people obviously never don't follow up because they say, screw it, I'm not doing it. It's because they forget. So develop a system, whether it's using technology with apps, whether it's using reminders in your Outlook or what have you, reminders in your phone and so on. Use the technology so that you will not forget to get back to somebody or to do something, because not only contractors, but fellow workers love the fact that they can count on people. They'll say, that's somebody that I can count on. If he or she says they're going to do something, I know they're going to do it. So let's, how to be a great communicator. Listen actively, like I said, pay full attention, practice empathy. This is obviously a recap. Tailor communication to your customer or prospect. What I mean by this is do not communicate with customers or prospects with the way you like to communicate. Communicate with them the way they like. So today's world, texting is easy, and I get it. It's very efficient. But if you have a customer or you find out that as you get to know a prospect that they don't like texting, they'd rather have phone calls, then do phone calls for that particular customer. Another customer probably loves texting or emails, whatever. So whatever they like is how you want to communicate with them. Stay positive and confident. No one wants to deal with somebody that's constantly moody. Adapt to different mediums, as I said. Communicate with how your customer likes to, and be honest and authentic. Okay, communicate with integrity. It builds trust. So, getting towards the end here, let's talk about this is stuff I've come up with over the years of what I say tips for being a professional salesperson. So this is saying I absolutely loved. I saw this many years ago. Attitude drives actions. Actions drive results, and results drive income or lifestyle. The actual quote says drive lifestyle. But so what does it say? If you have a poor attitude, you're probably going to end up driving poor actions. And those poor actions are going to drive poor results. And those poor results are going to diminish your income if you're on commission or what have you. And maybe you're not on commission. Maybe you're on hourly, but you get a bonus or what have you. However, if you're positive, you're going to, more often than not, it's going to drive positive actions and therefore positive results. Become invaluable to your customers. The more you can eliminate or solve problems, the more successful you'll be. Now, when I started at National Lumber New England in 2001, the owner would use this, and I loved it. He said, I want our company I want our customers to say, National Lumber is invaluable. Now, one thing I learned, especially as I got into sales management, is no customer is going to tell you you're invaluable because they're going to be afraid you're going to raise the price. But you know which customers you're invaluable to. They look at you and your company as unpaid employees and that you're a team member. If you can reach that point with customers, you'll never lose them. As a professional salesman, take responsibility. You're a human being, you're going to make mistakes. Admit them and say, this is what we're going to do. And at the same time, I say, if it's someone else in your organization that made the mistake, let's say it's the yard worker who put a load of 2x6s together when the slip said 2x8s and he misread it. Okay, the customer's ticked off, they got the wrong product. I get that. But you should not be saying, "Oh gosh darn it, that freaking guy in the yard messed up, and now you're ticked off. I got to drop everything and so on." No one wants to hear dirty laundry within a company, within a family, if you would. So the best thing to do is say, you know what, we messed up. We did. I've already talked to shipping. They're putting the right stuff together now. You're going to see it within an hour and apologize. That's taking responsibility. Become a person of action. You want to be known as getting things done. Be a consistent performer, positive performer, deliver on your promises. And I know this is repetitive, but these are all important things if you want to be successful in sales. And what do customers want? They basically want what we want: more sales, greater profitability, a better image, less hassles, more free time. We all want those things. Well, so do your customers. And I can tell you in my 40 years, if you're able to get them even one of those things, let alone two, price becomes secondary. I'm not saying price is not important. I know it is, but it will not be the number one driving factor if you're giving them some of those things I just laid out. So basically, the more value you provide to them, price gets down to the third or fourth most important thing to them. So summary, 3 ways of increasing revenue under what I call the prospecting umbrella. The low-hanging fruit is identifying product groups your customers are not buying from you and pursue that business. I call it the low-hanging fruit because they already have a relationship with you and your company. So they're probably going to give you an opportunity to at least discuss the product lines they're not buying from you. Identify customers who are buying a smaller percentage from your company than your competitor. In other words, house accounts or what have you. So if you got a customer that buys $400,000 in a year in building materials and they're only buying 100 from you, can you move the needle to get to 200? And maybe it's a 50-50 split as opposed to a 25-75. And then finally, identify and research potential new customers, especially referrals from existing customers and subcontractors. That is warm calling. Referrals are huge. Think about, like I said, if somebody refers you, there's a pretty good chance you're going to reach out to that person. Whether you do business with them or not, that's, I don't know. But if a friend of yours says you really got to try this painting contractor for your house, you're going to give that painting contractor a call. So wrap this up. We're right on time. I give you a little Boston joke here. In most of North America, if you lose your khakis, you have no pants. But in Boston, if you lose your khakis, you can't start your car. And yes, I have no idea why we talk funny up here, but then again, we think the Southerners talk funny. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. And Manny, are you still on the call?
I'm here.
If anybody has any questions or comments, I'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah, there is a Q&A section. So our attendee who's here, Travis, if you have any questions, you can drop them in the Q&A, and then I'll read them to Mike, and Mike will answer your questions. All right, yeah, I see that.
Okay.
Thank you, Travis. Says thank you. Do you have anything you want to ask, Mike?
No, thank you very much, and I hope you got something out of it. All right, great. Thank you very much, and have a good day.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.